Hey, it's Chris Vermilion,
And I'm Tracy Vermilion.
and we're here to talk to you about our options for World Travelers Club. Obviously, we all wish we weren't talking about the potential to make some changes for today. We love the original itinerary. We're looking forward to going with your students. But the events being what they are, we're excited to give you another option, and that option is Panama. We've been sending out messages via Remind, kind of previewing what that might look like. Before Tracy and I go through the itinerary and what you can expect, I did want to let you know that if your family decides at any point during this message that you would like to drop, you can kind of fast forward to the end where we'll talk about how you go about that process, because this video is both to explain Panama to you and to explain, if you're making the choice to drop, how to do that. We would ask you to make a consideration rather quickly. EF has given us a very quick turnaround deadline, that by Monday we have to be booking new plane tickets and hotels if we're going to do this. So expect to get from us a survey by Sunday. I don't know what time yet, but sometime on Sunday. And in that survey, it'll be, a very quick survey that just says, this is my child's name. I either would like the new trip, to drop the new trip, or so on. It's really going to be a very quick survey for you. We just have to know which direction to go in. So Tracy and I are going to take you through kind of what we're becoming excited about, which is Panama. Talk to you about the highlights of the trip. The good news is that there won't be any additional fees for your child. This was originally a cheaper trip, and even though they're trying to book it with 3 weeks left to go, they did guarantee that if they had to eat some of the expenses, they would. They've offered us all of the upgrades to the trip, all the meals, all of the flights, hotels, all will be included. So we're not asking for any additional monies at all at this point. You've already paid for tips, so that will take care of that as well. So without further ado, we're going to take you through some of the highlights of what you can expect. This is going to be an adventure where you can expect to see a lot of outdoors activities. It is usually about 80 degrees this time of year.
Humid.
So a completely different wardrobe, as some of the students came to talk to me, than what they were probably planning. We do expect to have whitewater rafting, zip lining through a tree canopy, just a lot of really fun things that we'll go through day by day with you. So as I go through this itinerary, and as Tracy and I are going to switch back and forth with each day and go through each day, it is important that you are patient with us and understand that this is not going to be a trip that we can micromanage like we normally do. I got this itinerary 2 days ago, and Mr. Tallman and I were really going through the viability of the trip. We do think it could be a fantastic trip, but we're not going to be able to go to EF with 3 weeks left to go and say, hey, we don't like this day, or hey, can you change this day? So this is pretty much what you see is what we're going to get. If you're trying to fast forward through and look, we are not doing the Columbia extension on that, but it is everything that you see on your days 1 through 8 is provided as part of your original amount with EF. So obviously day 1 is normally a day that we fly, perhaps the city tour. Day 2 is going to be really a focus on the Panama Canal, which obviously is a UNESCO World Heritage Site, and it's something that we're excited about seeing. Obviously, history teachers put a lot of emphasis in history on how that affected global shipping and Central and South America, and of course, United States history with that. I'm not sure that would really be the big draw for most students, but we're going to start taking you through some of the exciting things on each day. So Tracy's going to talk about day 3.
So day 3, we're going to take an airplane to David, and then we're going to go visit a local honey farm and also visit a butterfly sanctuary.
So I think this trip does a nice job of putting kind of some cultural pieces together with some adventure pieces. And what's interesting about it is what I might be excited about and what your student might be excited about could be different things, but it has a little bit of everything to offer. And so this is kind of more of a cultural day, probably a little bit slower paced day that's a little bit easier. And then on day 4, we're going to do a rainforest ziplining experience. Everything from looking at the jungle and the ecosystem of that jungle to actually being, adventurous and going through. And I think there was a picture up here earlier of kind of one of those ziplining experiences. So I think the students will certainly be excited about that opportunity on day 4. So day 5?
Day 5, we're actually going to get to go whitewater rafting, which is going to be an awesome time.
And if you want to take a trip, look at this a little bit closer, you can Google YouTube, EF whitewater rafting, and the name of this location, Boquete, I think it's how it's pronounced. Yeah. It's not going to be one of those lazy river types of things. I mean, it does look like there's going to be a lot of excitement with, these are really
all safe though.
Yeah, all safe. You're gonna have a helmet and you're gonna have a life jacket on and that kind of thing, of course.
And local guides.
These are high school students, right?
Yeah,
I don't think their parents are.
But...
You do see that this says optional excursion, but again, we have been told by EF that we can choose all optional excursions with the exception of Columbia here. So we will be choosing to take all optional excursions. So day 6?
Day 6, we're going to get to build a mud hut, do one of those cultural experiences and do a traditional mud hut with a native tribe. But really, I want to talk about day 7. Because day 7, we actually get to go snorkeling. When I was a junior in high school, I went to Panama on a trip very similar to this, and that was still one of the highlights, is getting to go snorkeling. It is the perfect place to snorkel.
Well, and if you look, this Isla Iguana, you can look that up. It's Isla, obviously means island in Spanish. It's Iguana Island. So, of course, we'll get a little bit of the fun with the flora and the fauna with the the iguanas and that kind of thing. And I was watching some videos on this, quite a few species of monkeys and sloths. And so I think the students will be really excited about taking pictures. It just to be a little bit different than, what Europe would have been. Instead of architecture and churches, it's going to be sloths and monkeys and iguanas and zip lines and that kind of stuff. And so day 8 is going to be a travel to a famous beach. And again, I've been told that we can do the surf lessons as a part of it. These are mostly veterans who have taken part in several of EF's folklore evenings. We always think they're going to be super cheesy, and they kind of are. But students often talk about how much fun they are. And I expect kind of the same thing out of that piece. Day 9, we'll be traveling home. My understanding is that they don't have flights yet, but based on what the flights look like, it's looking like we would fly out on a Sunday and come back on a Monday. And so we were originally planning on flying out Saturday and coming back Monday. This trip is 1 day shorter, but remember the original trip to Europe would have been lost that first day on the overnight anyway on the flight, and you don't lose that. So our day 1 will probably still have some sightseeing because you're on the same time zone. So we really feel like it's a fairly comparable amount of time. Our rep has assured us that the quality that we expect as far as, eating upgraded meals and stuff like that we always do as sponsors, that all that will be taken care of as much as they can in this short period of time. And so, we feel pretty good about, given the situation, what we can provide for your student. And we need to make sure the whole group hears this. If you decide not to go, it's perfectly fine. Your option is going to be to take a voucher for about the full amount, and I'll show you that in a moment. We do need a decent amount of students to go to make this work, but I think as long as we have about half to 2/3 go, I think it's still a very viable trip. Out of 19, if we had 3 or 4 say they couldn't go, I don't think that's a problem. And so what I don't want to happen is students really encouraging other students that they have to go. That's not the case. Based on the students I've talked to and the surveys I've seen, I really feel like we've got probably 85-90% that said they want to go anyway. So if you're feeling like you want to bow out, please don't feel any bad feelings about that. Don't let others make you feel bad. If that's what you're wanting to do, I wanted to just go over what a travel voucher is and how to do that. And so a travel voucher is essentially them saying that, yeah, we had to cancel for some unforeseen reason, minus the $95 non-refundable fee. And if you paid for the global protection plan, which I think was $160, you would get the voucher for the full amount minus those 2 things. And I was disappointed, like everybody else, that you would say insurance wouldn't cover a global epidemic, but it is very clear if you read the insurance, like each of you as parents signed, that you would take a look at your own insurance before purchasing it. that there are things that they don't cover. And unfortunately, the insurance really covers more for your family if you have problems than if the location you're going has problems. And I would love to say that it's easy to just call and get your money back, but it does look like a voucher program. We have asked the details with the voucher, and they are transferable to family members and friends. And so while no one probably wants to have a voucher for now, for you seniors especially, there are college trips that you could choose to take, and you would have until September of 2021 to decide. You could transfer it to your siblings who may want to go on one of our future trips. If you got family, friends that have an underclassmen that want to go, you could transfer it to them. So,
or maybe mom and dad want to take a trip after the kids
Yeah.
go to college, and there are adult trips.
there
they
are
can go.
adult, they're called go trips, where you can, you and 6 of your friends can put together an EF trip where they do all the details for you. So after looking at the voucher, I do feel pretty confident that you'll be able to figure out a way, if you don't want to travel again, to get your money back with that. But at this point, Mr. Tallman and I can't do a ton for you. You would have to call in to EF and say, we were supposed to go to Europe, and there's an option to go to Panama, and we are going to drop from the trip, and we would, like to talk more about what that looks like. So just to quickly reiterate, Panama is your option. We're going to send out a link on Sunday that gives you a chance to say, my child's name is, and either I'm going to go to Panama, please start booking my child on that trip, or I would like to drop. And it's important that once you say you're going to go with us, you need to really stick to that. Now, if God forbid something happens and something spreads here or there and we can't go, I've been assured it's still the same rules for the travel voucher. So, don't worry about what if we have to cancel a second time. If we have to cancel a second time, we'll cancel a second time. As of the recording of this video, there are no cases of the coronavirus in Panama, and so we feel very comfortable about the safety of it. But from this point forward, once we get enough people to say yes, they want to go, I will work with EF and the school on Monday to get final clearance from the school to be able to go. They do know that we're trying to find a location, and then EF will start taking care of all the final details. So I really appreciate your time. I know this is not something that we were all planning for. I think from my family to yours and from the Tallmans, we just want to try to make the best out of a situation that none of us asked for. We want your children to have an opportunity to have a fun spring break, even if it's not the one they originally had planned for. So you can send messages to either Mr. Tallman or myself by responding to any remind message if you have questions from this point forward. Otherwise, expect a link sometime on Sunday, and we'll get your choice of travel or voucher plan at that point. All right. Have a good weekend, everybody. Thank you.